Welcome to the Cincy Corner, the place where Ohio sports meets sports betting. The Cincy Corner is brought to you by the U.S. Gambler and sponsored by Betfred Sportsbook. Betfred provides the most personalized betting experience on the market, from in-person events with betting competitions, weekly promotional offers that fit your betting size and patterns, as well as a personal touch you won't get anywhere else. Betfred gives you more. Welcome back, Kyle. Hunter, my esteemed co-host. How was your week?
It's been a busy week, but I'll tell you what, I'm glad to be back. And I didn't really plan it that way, but I just realized that, my week that I wasn't here was the Bengals bye week. So I guess that was kind of good timing in that way. So, but now we got a huge Bengals game coming up, and there was some interesting results from last weekend in the NFL. What was your kind of takeaway from last week's NFL?
I took it easy. It was my bye week as well, man. I had to recharge my batteries for this final playoff push we're about to start here. But the Vikings shocked me. Like, they showed me that they're for real now, and in Buffalo, they look a little shaky. And I don't know if it's a matter of Josh Allen, his elbow, or what, but there's a stat out there, if I'm not mistaken. They said he was like 0-7 when it's down to one possession games. Could that be right? Did you hear that?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure on that. That seems a little crazy, but I'm not sure.
But then, in overtime, my man threw that interception at the end. And I don't know. They just look off. For everyone kissing their butt all, nonstop now, I don't feel that they're as confident as they once were.
Well, I'm going to give you another one. I agree with you. I think that was kind of the game of the year to this point. Vikings, I still don't think the Vikings are as good as their record, but it's hard to say that the Vikings are fraudulent because they keep winning these games like this. How about the Packers, though, coming back and beating the Cowboys? I thought that was kind of crazy. I mean, Dallas respected in the betting markets for sure, understandably so. I think they are a good team. Green Bay kind of left for dead. And look, this is a Green Bay team that had been terrible. All at once they come back and win that game. I guess this is kind of their final shot. They're up to 4-6 in a division that's not very good. So, I mean, I know the Vikings are good, but the Packers trying to have one last stand. I was surprised. I thought the Packers were done for in that game.
Yeah, I actually bet on the Packers, won a little bit of money there. And
nice.
Yeah, I don't, how does that happen though? Like the same thing, right? When it looks like a team's down, it's over. I think they lost 5 straight or 6 straight. The Cowboys are rolling and they're up 2 touchdowns. And then all of a sudden, that guy was Christian Watson. Is that his name for the Packers? Oh my God. He had the coming out party and all of a sudden they're looking like gangbusters. And there you go. It happens.
Yeah. I think I want to at least mention, like, what on earth is wrong with the Raiders? I mean, the Raiders couldn't even beat the Colts with we talked about all throughout the week. I get on the Twitter timeline and people are making fun of the Colts. They hired Jeff Saturday and like they got this guy that's never called plays in his whole life. And everybody's taking the Raiders. And I'm glad I didn't take the Raiders like a lot of people did. What a terrible loss for them. I mean, this Raiders franchise is kind of just in disarray at this point.
Yeah, what I realized too is I have different scales for crying in sports. Like, it seems like it's okay if you have a big victory. That seems okay. Or you're happy for somebody. That seems okay. But there's something about a guy crying after a loss that doesn't sit right with me, Yeah. And I think Derek Carr was dang near balling. I thought his mom was going to have to come out there for a minute, I don't know, man. They just look done. I think it's that coach. I think he sucks.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you there. And I will say, I'm kind of rooting for the Colts here. I kind of hope that Saturday proves everybody wrong. Like, his press conferences, I just like what I hear. I mean, I kind of like it when people prove the common person wrong. I mean, honestly, it's part of the reason I like Josh Allen as a quarterback. A lot of people thought he wasn't very good at the start. It's also easy to root for a guy like Daniel Jones. I mean, people just write off somebody and say they suck right away.
I wrote him off.
I mean, it's, but the Colts, I don't want to crown them as like some tremendous team just from that win. It was more about the Raiders just being that bad. And then we should probably mention also the Eagles getting knocked off for the first time this year. I'm glad that the Eagles got knocked off in a way, because I was kind of tired of people saying the Eagles are clearly the best team in the NFL when, I mean, the Eagles really, who had they beaten that, you know, they had proven anything like that. So Commanders, gosh, they better not go back to Carson Wentz, right?
Oh, there's no way. I mean,
Gosh,
I
that'd be
think,
terrible.
yeah, I think Heineke he's a battler, man. He fights, and we forget Rivera was a one-time NFL coach of the year. I mean, Dan Snyder's such a turd owner that you forget that, you know, that guy can really coach, and they have some talent on that team. I know the defense has a lot of players, so they really played keep away with the Eagles, and I was pretty impressed with that.
Yeah, that was a good one for sure. So let's take a look now going forward to this week. You know, we got to talk about the Bengals and Steelers first. The Bengals laying 4 points on the road in Pittsburgh, total of 41 here on the Betfred Live line. Let's see. I'll let you start out on this one. What are your thoughts here initially? Bengals at Steelers.
Okay, I'm on tilt with the Bengals line because I'm too blinded by love. I'm just going to say, for the game itself, I am very confident Joe Burrow won't have 5 turnovers. Very confident in saying that. And the quarterback seems like a Kenny Pickett seems like a mess. And I just think that we should handle him. We should handle him, right?
You know, here's the thing. I'm going to say the same thing you said here. The Bengals -4 is really not my concern in this game. I want to know whether they're going to get a win or not. We just need a W here. If they don't cover the spread, I'm not terribly worried about that. This is you know, kind of a difficult spot, but you have the Bengals coming in off extra rest and the Steelers coming in having played last week, so that's a positive for them. I think, to be honest, you know, the Pittsburgh Steelers fans, and I don't want to go too much on a tangent here, but Steelers fans talk a lot of smack for a team that's 3-6 so far this year. I mean, let's be honest. They beat the Bengals. They really shouldn't have beaten the Bengals, but I want this game a lot as a Bengals fan. This is one that, you know, if they're going to lose a game here coming up, I sure hope it ain't this one.
Listen, I'll talk smack against Steeler fans. The only thing they do more than talking trash is get drunk. Them guys are a bunch of degenerates out there in Pennsylvania. I should know. My dad's from there. So, but the thing is, there is a little recipe. All right. I'm going to be honest. This is what makes me nervous. Clearly, the recipe among the AFC North when it comes to Joe Burrow is getting the heat on him. That's it. I'm saying, if they beat him, it happened with Cleveland. It happened with the Steelers week 1, and the Ravens got to him pretty good. And if they don't, they get carved up. So can Williams win the rematch? And the line is a way better position than they were week 1. So I mean, my brain's telling me we're going to win, and my Bengal loving heart, you know. So obviously, I mean, Steelers have been struggling big time. I mean, they're nothing spectacular. So this definitely should be a W. And I think that the team maturing and getting, they can rely on their experience more and be like, hey, we're starting to make moves and it's time for the playoff run. I think they're going to buckle down and ideally they come out and smack these guys right in the mouth, because they really shouldn't even be competing with them, honestly.
Well, I mean, I think, you know, I hate to jeopardize our few Pennsylvania fans that we might have out there. So, I mean, but let's be honest, if they're Pennsylvania or Steelers fans, they're probably not a big fan of Cincy Corner. But,
No, absolutely not.
You know, the Steelers are going to want this game badly. And as much as neither one of us really like the Steelers at all, we both think that Mike Tomlin is a good coach, and he does a good job getting his team ready to play. I think the Steelers will be very up for this game. The Bengals are the better team. I think the Bengals probably win this game. It might be ugly. TJ Watt is a problem, that's for sure. No doubt about that. I hope the Bengals are spending a lot of time with their offensive schemes and pass protection here in the last couple of weeks, because that's definitely the key to this game. I don't want to bet on this game. I want to just be a fan on this one. So we're both fans and bettors, and I'm going to put my fan hat on first for this one.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. And then the big question will be DJ Reader. Is he coming back? I'm hearing that he might be, might not be, but I'm pretty sure he's going to be playing this week. But hopefully they can just ease him in. They get back to business.
Yeah, I think they need him in a game like this. The Steelers are pretty conservative with their game plan. They usually try to run the ball a decent amount. I know with Pickett, they throw it around a little bit more. The Bengals really need to try to win the turnover margin here in this one. As much as that killed them in the first game, Pickett is capable of turning the ball over multiple times. So I'd like to see the Bengals finish with a plus in the turnover margin column here in this one. Burrow is in much better shape than he was in the first game. I don't think there's any question about that. He stepped into a bad situation. You could even argue that maybe he shouldn't have started the first game, but they are where they are now. Burrow's playing good football. The Bengals are in a much better place. This is a big test for the offensive line. So when we reconvene here next week, we're going to be talking about, let's see, did they pass or fail that test?
I'm dying to see Volson as well, to see how much he progressed from week one. If we win the turnover battle or even with a -1, we're going to win this game. So I'm not even going to worry about it. What about the old Brownies and the Bills?
The Browns and the Bills. What a tough team to figure out the Browns are. I got nothing against the Browns like I do the Steelers, but how did the Browns play so well against the Bengals? And then they just suck. They just look terrible. I'm trying to be careful with my language here, but the Browns look terrible against these other teams, and they play the Bengals and look like world beaters. I almost bet the Browns last week against the Dolphins. I'm really glad I didn't, because they laid another egg. They're capable, and I think the Browns have enough talent. They should be better than what they've been in general. How do they look so good and then be so disappointing? Now, I have to say, the weather report in this game, the weather report is really, really important. 20 miles per hour winds, gusts to 33 miles per hour. The snow kind of tapering down this weekend, but a massive winter storm heading to Buffalo this weekend. 36 inches of snow expected. That's just insane. I know they're kind of used to snow up there, but keep an eye on the forecast here, because if the snow ends before the game or not will matter quite a bit. If there's heavy snow and wind, I think that helps the Browns here, right? The Browns want to run the football every single time.
Yeah, the Bills are pretty shaky against the run. I saw that when they played the Packers. I think there's a definite vulnerability there. And so the Browns could get lucky here, especially. I hope it is a blizzard at game time.
Yeah, me too.
But old Deshaun Lotion Watson's coming back to practice this week.
Yeah, I can't say that I'm excited about that or anything, but yeah, that's big news coming up for sure. He's going to get to play. Isn't his first game back against his old team?
Yeah. It's funny how that worked out.
The NFL I don't know how they backed into that. They just get so fortunate that that's the time he comes back. I'm sure there was no, reason for that, but I think Browns plus the points here is a good lean. If the weather still looks bad, I think I might even bet the Browns here for something, because we've seen this total come crashing down. It's 41.5 now.
It's because of the blizzard, right?
Yeah, just a epic blizzard. I think this one was 47.5 or 48. So we've seen this one come down by almost a touchdown. I think it's warranted if that weather actually comes to fruition. So keep an eye on the weather if you're watching this or listening to see what it looks like on Sunday, because I know they said Saturday was the worst day for the weather there, but Sunday it looked like there could still be some bad weather around too.
The Bengals losing to the Browns all the time reminds me of, do you remember Julia Roberts? She was married to this real ugly guy named, I think Lyle Lovitz. That's the last time I've been this baffled. Like something that just doesn't match up,
I didn't have that one on my card that we were going to have Julia Roberts in the show tonight, but we did.
Have to Google him after. I know I'm a lot older than you, man. So I
don't remember this guy.
Oh, all right. He's a looker. That's for sure. But another good game is Chargers and Chiefs. That's the Sunday night one, right?
Yeah, Chargers and Chiefs. Gosh, I feel like the Chargers have played poorly. And then you look at, they are 5-4. Gosh, I don't know. And the Chargers should have beaten the Chiefs the first time they played. Let's remember that. The first time they played was in KC, Now they go to LA, which is not exactly a great home field advantage. I mean, a lot of times the opposing team has more fans in the stands than the Chargers do.
Chargers
But
just lost their interior lineman too.
I
Both
mean,
of them.
Chargers offensive line is a mess in general. I mean, they're in trouble. The defensive line has had quite a few injuries. The Chargers are another team. We've said this about the Ravens. The Chargers get injured every single year. I don't know what it is. It's in the water out there, but somebody is injured constantly. Herbert got kind of banged up again last game as
Did you
well.
see that hit?
I was surprised he was back after that, but
I was surprised the guy got kicked out.
Yeah, I don't think it was to the level that he should have been kicked out either. It definitely deserved a penalty. I understand that, but getting kicked out was excessive.
That puts some guys in a tough spot. You know what I mean? You're moving 1,000 miles an hour, and all of a sudden you see this dude running, and he's not, going down. I mean, you're gonna get hit.
Oh,
but
yeah. Absolutely.
I was surprised he came out. I think his man bun even came loose on that hit. I'm not sure. It was a hard one though.
I'm calling an audible for a minute, Bengals Genius. I got to ask you, what do you think of the call at the end of the Commanders and Eagles game? What did you think of when
he went
down? Yeah.
You can't touch him, right?
I mean, honestly, I feel like it was the right call.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a bummer. I understand it's a bummer. Like, you want to see how the game would have played out, but I thought there were so many people on social media afterwards, like, that's the worst call I've ever seen. It's like, well, I mean, he
it's like, dude? That's like putting a big slice of pizza right on the edge of the coffee table and your dog's in the room. You know what I mean? Like, they know better, but that's too tempted.
They can't help themselves.
Yeah, he could. Them defensive guys are trained killer assassins, so
that's funny. I don't know what to bet in this game. I think I would lean to the over on Chargers and Chiefs. Sorry, I got us off topic there.
No problem.
That one was too good of a question. I had to ask the Bengals Genius what he thought about that call, because it was just out there so much. I think Chargers Chiefs, I would lean the over. 50 is kind of up there. The Chargers are fastest in tempo in the NFL. We know the Chiefs can score. I mean, the Chiefs can score against just about anybody. So if you think the Chargers can keep up at least somewhat, I think the over might be a good look.
The Chiefs right now, are they 5-3? Nick, what's their record?
The Chiefs.
The Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, the Chiefs.
They lose 3 games or 2?
2, I think.
2.
Okay. All right. So
2 games ahead.
Yeah. All right. So
Chiefs, they're in first place. They're 7-2, first place.
Okay. Right now they're number 1 seed. All right. The Ravens, as we know, they're leading the division. They got the Panthers coming into town. I think this could be closer than people think. I can't see the Panthers winning, but I could see them sneaking in and covering this spread. 12. Is it 12 points?
13.
13 points. What's that Betfred line there, Nick, for the Panthers and Ravens?
Panthers, Ravens. Oh, I thought I put.
I'll talk for a minute while he looks at that one. It looks like it's 13.
13,
yeah, so
all right.
Plus
13. The Jules factor.
18, yep.
The Jules factor, Baker Mayfield's playing.
Oh, I feel a little guilty bashing Baker Mayfield, but I'm going to have to do it anyways. I mean, sorry in advance, but Baker Mayfield is better than Walker, but is that really saying very much? I mean, Mayfield's a bad NFL starter at this point. He doesn't have enough talent around him, but I got to tell you, I got a couple things about this game that stand out to me. First, Baltimore is the home team here, and Jerome Boger's crew is the officiating crew. And I'm gonna drop some solid angles on this one. Boger's crew, first of all, is probably the worst crew in the NFL. I mean, if you're ready for some bad calls, be ready for that in this one. Boger's crew, 115 home covers, 96 road covers, 54.5% to the home team, and 124 overs, 92 unders. 57.5% overs. They're well noted for their defensive pass interference, 50-yard bogus penalties. You probably don't want to bet an under with Jerome Boger's crew as the officiating crew. So I wouldn't have said that I wanted to bet the over in this game to start with, and I still don't think I'll bet the over, but I don't want to bet the under, knowing that they're the crew in this one. And it also makes me shy a little bit away from taking the Panthers, because Boger apparently likes to play to the home crowd a little bit. If you look across the board, almost all the refs are 50-50 ATS. And then Boger is 55% basically for the home team, and then nearly 60% for the over, which is pretty crazy. So I always look for that every week to see who Boger's crew is going to be doing. But as far as this game in general, I think 13 points is a lot, man. I mean, the Ravens have this penchant for playing a bunch of close games, so why would I really want to lay that many points? But I'm not excited to bet the Panthers. So if you want to bet the Panthers, I'm going to let you do it, but I'm going to pass on this one.
Well, you just blew my mind. That's the first time I ever looked at a referee angle. Where do you even get that at?
Oh, so I'm pulling that from the Bet Labs database, but it's not that publicly known, but I'm happy to drop those here on the show when I get a chance, for sure.
Wow, that's crazy. All right, well, that's something definitely to think about. I was leaning the Panthers. You got smoke coming out of my ears right now.
No,
but the reason why was basically the Panthers struggle against the pass more so than the run, and I think that's kind of the setup here. So I think they can kind of hold them in check a little bit better than people think, and I think there's everyone thinks they're going to just come in and blow out the Panthers, but that's why I think they're going to linger around.
Well, I would try to talk you out of it if you're going to take the under, but
No.
Taking the Panthers, I mean, 54.5% is not a big enough angle that I would just say you have to stay away from it. And honestly, before I saw Boger's crew, I did think Panthers plus 13 was my lean. The Panthers are bad, let's be honest. I mean, we've seen how bad the Panthers can be. But the Ravens, I don't know that they're that highly motivated to win by a huge number here. And Baker Mayfield kind of playing for a future, spot in the NFL at this point. I feel like it's kind of an audition for him, so he needs to play pretty well. I don't know if he can. We'll see if he can or not.
Okay, I got to admit that this segment is teaching me so much. I'm using it week in, week out. It's time for Sports Betting 101 with Professor Kyle. Kyle, what's the subject for the day?
All right, today we're going to talk about betting player props. So this has gotten really a lot more popular. I will say, to start with, I don't bet a ton of these, but I see a lot of people make a lot of big mistakes betting player props. So I thought maybe it would be a good thing to talk about here today. I'm going to say 3 tips for betting on player props, 3 things that you have to do. Okay, number 1 is have a lot of sports books to price shop around. We've talked about having a lot of outs in the past. I'm going to harp on this as much as possible. And I'm going to give a plug here. Go to the usgambler.com. You can see there's a lot of great offers for sports books in many different states, not just Ohio. In player props, every single yard or point matters a bunch. It doesn't matter if it's yardage, point total, whatever it may be. It doesn't matter what sport it is. You get whatever you can by that yard, that point difference, the assist difference. It's going to make a big difference. Also, remember, the juice you pay will hurt you in the long run a lot too. Be cognizant of that, because I see so many people saying, well, I saw over 65.5 rushing yards from minus 150. So I took that instead of over 66.5 from minus 115. It's like, oh my goodness, like you guys have no chance. So you have to be very cognizant of the price that you're paying on this. We talked about that in a previous Sports Betting 101 as well. So that's number 1, though, is have a lot of sports books to price shop around. You got to get a good number, because a lot of these are going to come very close. Number 2 is you want to use the games where you feel you have an edge in the overall handicap. Those are the ones that you want to look for value in player props as well. I mean, if you know the Bengals games really well, you think the Bengals will have a run-heavy script in a specific game, then look for Joe Mixon over props. If you think the Bengals are going to have a big lead late in the game, consider Joe Burrow pass attempts under. Maybe Burrow's going to get pulled early in the game like he did against the Panthers, something like that, because that type of thinking can really help you a lot in betting these player props. If you know a team or a game very well, or you think you have an edge on a game really well, use that. I know some people that are really successful in betting player props, and they're not afraid to go ahead and bet the side in a game and bet a couple props, because those are correlated, right? So, both of those things are more likely to happen. If you're right on the one, you're probably going to be right on the others as well. So you don't want to go, crazy and bet ridiculous amounts of money on that. But Bengals Genius, I think that's something that people should keep in mind is if you know something really well, go ahead and hone in on that. We have a lot of people listening to this, I know, that would know the Bengals well. So if you know the Bengals games well, then you probably want to bet player props on the Bengals games a lot quicker than you would on some of the others because you know your team well. So keep that in mind. And, you don't have to play everything. As we said, you can use good discretion as far as which ones to take and which ones not to take. But if you have an edge overall in the overall game handicap, or you think you know how the game state will play out, that's a really good one to look at. Third, look for reasons to bet unders more than overs. I've seen this one so many times.
I've seen that.
Genius. It is absolutely a fact. And I've talked to people who set lines on things like this, and they say the public wants to bet over so bad on player props, especially you see this in the Super Bowl. So the Super Bowl props, everybody loves doing props for the Super Bowl. I do quite a bit of those. But
you know why? Because so a game feels like your bet's over instantly.
Sure.
Once it goes over that, it's like, oh man,
nothing to cheer for anymore.
No, right. But
right.
I've seen it so many times where that happens. All right, sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, I think that's a good point, because if you're betting all player prop overs in the Super Bowl, you're probably going to lose long term. Like, you have a very small chance of actually winning. Unders are not fun to root for. But you have to think about it here. I've asked my clients this before, like, what do you really want to do? You want to root for something that's more fun to root for, or you want to make money long term? Like, if your goal is to make money, then you probably should be looking at more unders. And I mean, some people are just honest about the fact that they're just trying to bet for fun. If you just want to bet for fun and you're not afraid to lose a little bit of money, you want to bet small amounts on the overs, then go ahead. I'm just saying, if you want to invest in the long term, the unders are going to do better than the overs are, because the public is going to take those and move that price up and up. You can see throughout the week, you see in the most popular Sunday night football games, even you'll see the passing yardage starts and it moves up 5, 6, 8 yards. So if you want to bet an under, you wait till the end. If you want to bet an over, you bet it early on. So that's, I guess that's almost like a bonus tip right here, is that you know when to bet it.
Oh, that's good. Let me ask you this. This has to be for suckers. When they group them bets in, where these players, if they get this many yards or whatever, that has to be a sucker bet, right?
Yeah, I think it is. I don't think I've ever bet on one of those in my life, but I think that is also another thing that's really tricky. And I know this is not player prop related, but some people love to bet this, like, how many points will a team win by, like 1 through 5, like that type of thing, 6 through 10. The odds and the amount of hold that the books have on those are just massive. So, somebody's going to hit one once in a while, and then you're going to hear about that, right? You're going to hear, look at what this guy did. He parlayed this with blah, 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 and he had this big payout. Behind the scenes, you got all these other people losing, and they've lost week after week. But in general, keep in mind for the player props, again, first, have a lot of books to price shop, because it's super important. Number two, use the games that you know the best and you think you have an edge in to do the player props with. And number three, find reasons to bet unders. And I kind of added a bonus one here, where if you want to bet an over, you bet it earlier in the week. If you want to bet an under, you bet it later in the week. And there's probably going to be a spread there of a decent amount of yardage.
Yeah, what is there a number that's the breaking point of how many makes it ridiculously difficult? A number of prop bets, so if you bet 2, obviously, I know obviously the more you get, but is there like a magic number that's like, woo, this will be tough if you go over this many prop bets?
I don't think there is, man, because I think I've seen some people that's all they do is they bet props. And I've seen some guys that are really good at it. I mean, they're really good. So if that's what you're focusing on, I've seen people bet in the Super Bowl, 30, 40 props, and they kill it. They're awesome. I think if you're trying to do a lot of other things and you're working a day job and you're just randomly betting on a ton of those, you're probably not going to kill it like some of those guys are, because that's their full-time job. But I would be careful with player props in general as to how many of them you do. If you think you have an edge on a specific game, like I said, there are correlated things where you can just say, okay, You think the Bengals are going to win by a large margin. You take Burrow unders, you take Mixon overs, thinking that he's going to get more runs or something like that. Those type of ways are good ways to think when it comes into betting player props.
That's awesome, man. So what I'm going to do right now is after we do our show tonight, I'm going to look at the props I like and then check again Sunday morning. And then based on the difference, that's what I'm going to make my bet on.
I like it.
Definitely. All right. Good plan. Let's talk some college football. What are the good games for the week here?
So this week's college football, I would say is a kind of disappointing slate compared to some. Let's start off saying what the college football playoff rankings are. Again, the same as last week. So Georgia, number 1, Ohio State, number 2, Michigan, number 3, TCU 4, Tennessee, number 5. Nothing really happened that would change that last week. I'm trying to think if there's really, I don't know that it's very likely to change this week. I mean, because those top teams are not really playing teams that I would think that they would lose to. Now, of course, the Buckeyes will go and lose to Maryland or something now that I say that. But no, I mean, it's a lot of the top teams kind of have, we have some non-conference play this week, not a lot of big games outside of the Pac-12, which has some big games for sure. So let's talk about the Pac-12 games here a little bit. USC and UCLA. USC and UCLA, a really big game in the Pac-12. USC is about a couple point favorite. So Nick, if you can fill us in on what the live Betfred odds here are for USC and UCLA, that would be great. But you can interrupt me at any point. But USC, the last hope for a Pac-12 playoff team, that's for sure.
Well, it is USC minus 2.5 live from the Betfred line.
What do you got for a total? 75 or so?
76.
Oh my gosh.
For the total.
Oh man.
I'll take the under on that one.
Almighty.
I mean, I almost have to take the under at that. That's insane. You know, you have one quarter of not that much scoring and you stay under 76. Now I understand why it's 76. Both these offenses are really good. Caleb Williams has been excellent. Dye got hurt last week for USC. I think that's a pretty key injury there at running back. I think it puts more pressure on Caleb Williams. Addison needs to have a big game for USC. Guys, USC is plus 17 in turnover margin this year. That is insane. I mean, it's so hard to consistently have that kind of turnover luck. They have fumbled the ball 7 times and they've only lost 1 of those. Now, we know that Brown football doesn't bounce evenly. So we never know who's going to pick it up. But the fact that you've only lost 1 of them, I think that's a little bit of a fluke there. Now they've only thrown 2 interceptions, so they definitely take good care of the ball. How about Dorian Thompson-Robinson for UCLA, Bengals genius? I don't know if you have heard this yet, but he is talking a big game here during the week. DTR said they're going to put up 60 points on USC. I honestly don't know why you would say that.
Why is the Pac-10 so offensive heavy with their defense can never do anything?
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of fast-paced teams in this league, so they play really quickly. I don't know why the defenses aren't any better than they are, to be honest. I mean, this year is especially bad. The Big 12 used to be that way. You know, usually we'd have the Big 12 have all these ridiculous shootouts, and now the Pac-12 is a lot more that way than the Big 12 is. But in this one, these are 2 teams converting 55% and 52% on third downs, which is pretty amazing. The 2 defenses are pretty even. USC has 15 interceptions, so that's why they've looked better, is that they've been able to pick off so many passes. And I'm not a huge conspiracy guy, but if you think about this Bengals genius, the Pac-12 has been, I mean, it's been forever since the Pac-12. I think Washington's the last team that made it from the Pac-12 when they got waxed by Alabama in the first game. But Pac-12 hasn't had anybody make the playoffs in a long time. Who do you think the Pac-12 would like to win this game? Do you think it might be that they might want USC? Yeah. So if you get to the end of this game and there's a questionable call helping USC, it really wouldn't surprise me. You know, I'm not really one of those guys that says, oh, you know, I'm definitely not one of the guys that says it's rigged. It's super annoying when people say these games are rigged. You know, Vegas called it, you know, stuff like that. Oh my gosh, these are people that just want to complain about it. You know, oh, everything's a bad beat. But the Pac-12, definitely would want a team in the playoff. There's no doubt about that. And USC is really their last hope. So this game's close at the end. USC might get an edge, and that would make me kind of go away from my initial lean, which would have been UCLA, to be honest. So,
and what's the line for this one?
2.5 in the favor.
Man, I gotta like USC here then. But you're leading UCLA, huh?
I would have leaned UCLA, and an equal, all things being equal. I don't think USC is quite as good as some people think, but I'm going to give my strongest lean on under 76. Now, if I bet under 76, I'm going to have to hold my nose when I do it, because betting an under with those two teams is seems crazy, but 76, that's an insane number. I mean, you got to score a lot of points quick to get to 76.
I bet the under for Ole Miss and Alabama last week, and it felt like it might have been 1,000,000 points. It is like, guys, these guys aren't even close, and they were scoring quite a bit, so 76, that's like a basketball game.
Yeah, well, there's been some basketball scores in the Pac-12, so I'm not saying it couldn't happen here, but 76 is a high number. I think that's probably a little bit too high. Let's talk a little bit about Utah and Oregon, the other big game in the Pac-12. Utah and Oregon, we have on the live Betfred line here, Oregon is favored by 2.5 in this one, which is interesting. 63 points, the total. Oregon has been 3 most of the day here today. I see this has dipped down to 2.5 here recently. Bo Nix, a bit of a question mark as far as an injury. Nick, if you see anything behind the scenes about Bo Nix, let me know, because that's definitely a big injury question mark there. But Oregon, first in the nation, having given up only 2 sacks all year. Bengals genius, how amazing is that? They've given up 2 sacks the entire season.
Because he's throwing it every second. That team just, every time I watch them, they just look so soft. I saw them against Georgia week 1, and they just, they're just like a dainty little cutesy little, Tecmo Bowl team, man. I can't stand them. I think Utah's going to smack them.
Man, I didn't know we were going to go into Oregon Duck bashing mode here today.
Every time they run around, there's 400 different little duck costumes. You know what I mean? And it's just, they look great, and anytime they play anyone good, they get killed.
I don't know if I agree, but if Bo Nix plays, I don't know if I agree. I actually will be rooting for the Utes. I like Utah. I like Kyle Whittingham, so I hope you're right. Whittingham's a really good coach, and to back the Bengals genius here, Whittingham is 33-22 against the spread as an underdog. He's not an underdog very often because his teams are good. They're just that good. Now, to go against that, Oregon is first in success rate on offense in the country. They're also first in the Pac-12 in yards per play margin, plus 1.69. Utah is 7th, plus 0.04. So they're pretty much even on yards per play basis. I don't think the Bengals genius cares. I don't even think he gives he's like, Utah's winning this game.
That's what Oregon does all the time, right? That's probably against Calvary Lutheran School. They're putting up all these points, and then they play one good team, and they get their feelings hurt, and they lose. Well, I don't know, man. If Utah can play physical at all, I like Utah.
Going back to the Bo Nix news, wide receiver for Oregon, Chris Hudson, was quoted saying, "Obviously, Bo is down, so it's next man up." Head coach hasn't said anything, but the wide receiver was quoted saying that.
What has he got, a skin knee?
I think it's a little more than a skin knee, but
all right.
Yeah, we can classify it under that.
All right.
If Nix doesn't play, I think Utah's a good pick here at any kind of plus points. So I'm going to look into this one a little bit more afterwards and see. You can kind of follow along, and I'll give you some updates on Twitter as well to see if it looks like Nix is going to play, because they did kind of have their bubble burst here last week, because Oregon looked like they could be a playoff team, and then they lost to Washington. So now, not a great spot for them. The stats would suggest you should be taking Oregon situationally, and the coaches kind of think Utah. So I'm going to lean with the Bengals genius here. I'm not quite as much of a Oregon Ducks basher as he is, but he's not a big fan of that those neon uniforms and the wings.
I fell for it too many times. I'm all excited, and I watched them lose 68-2. What about the U of M and Illinois? U of M should just ground and pound them to death, right?
Yeah, I think Illinois was this looked like a lot better game a couple weeks ago, right? I mean, Illinois has lost 2 games here in the last couple weeks. Chase Brown, the Illinois star running back, who's first in the country in rushing yards so far this year. He got hurt on like the second to last play of the game last week. I think he's going to try to play, but him being less than 100% really hurts them a lot. Certainly Michigan 126 out of 131 in tempo. I think this will be a slow paced game. I see the total's been coming down, which makes sense to me. Wolverines defense has been really good here lately. As a Buckeyes fan, I'm getting a little bit worried about that big game, which is
I can't wait for that game.
Just next weekend, man. And we're going to have to spend a good amount of time talking about that game next week. But 2.33 yards per carry only given up by Michigan. I see Nick saying here that the total is 40.5 for this one. This one has gone down a lot. 20 miles per hour winds forecast for this one. So that's definitely part of the reason there. Michigan minus 18. Now, Bengals Genius, if you know me well enough, I don't want to lay 18 points with a total of 40.5 because you're implying that the score would be really low and you got to win by 3 touchdowns, basically. So I can't take Michigan here, especially when they have Ohio State the next game. You would think that they might let off at the end of the game, if nothing else. Maybe Michigan first half. Michigan go ahead and take care of business early on and then just get out of there in the second half.
All right.
How about Cincy and Temple?
Hold on a minute. I want you to respond to rumors. I heard, as you know, last week we had a guest guy, some Vegas big shot named Jason Silva was on here, and he wanted to take ECU. They gave up. They did cover the spread, but did you have ECU winning straight up or Cincinnati?
I thought ECU was a good play on the spread, and honestly, they probably should have won outright. I think ECU played really well in that game. That was a good call there by Mr. Silva, and I think I saw the guys filled in well from the book, and that was a good play. I think that's a good lesson too, because Cincinnati, it is the Cincy corner, but we're trying to make money here. We like the Bearcats, we love the Bengals and Bearcats, but we're trying to make money at the end of the day. So. Nick, what did you think about that game?
That was a squeaker.
I was under the impression
not been.
Yeah, I thought you were going to be giving out some smacks because I didn't know if you were agreeing with that money line, taking ECU straight up.
No, I think if it's part of the bet size, you bet part of it on the spread and part of it on the money line. I think that's a good call when it's a 5-point dog or something like that. So yeah, I mean. There's enough variance in college football that, taking the money line there made sense to me. Holton Ahlers a good player. They had a very real chance to win that game. So now I'm going to turn this into I'm going to turn this into Cincy and Temple here. This is a spot where Temple plus 17, I think it is. Nick, correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah. It's Cincy.
Cincy minus 17.
Cincy minus 17.
I don't know about that one either.
I was just gonna say, Nick, I want to get your thoughts on this. I'll say what I think here first. I want to get Nick's input on this one because Nick knows the Bearcats well too, for sure. Cincy has played constantly games that are 10 points or less. So now they're favored by 17 points. Temple's played well 2 games in a row. EJ Warner, Kurt Warner's son. Is playing for Temple. Yeah, Kurt Warner's son. So I feel like I'm getting older. I like rooting for him. I think Kurt Warner was fun to root for. I hope EJ Warner does well as well. Temple was so bad earlier this year, and the fact that they've played so well the last couple games, pretty interesting. They've been really feisty here of late. Why would we want to bet Cincinnati to have to win by 18 points against a feisty Temple squad that comes into here with some confidence? Unless Nick has something that he's really liking here on Cincinnati, I'm thinking Temple plus the points. This one's come down. It was 18.5. I think this one's still too big of a number, honestly.
I agree. I think the fall off between quarterbacks between Desmond Ridder and Ben Bryant might be the biggest jump. Might be the biggest fall between Division I quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Ben Bryant, there's no explosive plays between him.
I thought he
Miami's
was looking
dump-offs.
good at the beginning of the year. My man's falling apart, huh?
Ben Bryant's good on passes that are 0 to 10 yards. You can look at stats and he gets to the
Or
20.
handoffs to the running back.
Yeah, his specialty is handoffs to the running back. Okay. Well, we're not saying Ben Bryant's terrible or anything, or at least I'm not.
Oh no, great kid. He's a great guy. He's just not
he's not
would he
Desmond
lead
Ridder.
me to a national championship? I don't think so.
Right. And the Bearcats are a good team. I mean, I like the Bearcats. I think we all like the Bearcats. But you have to win by 18 points. The total's only 51. Temple's been pretty good here of late. I got an interesting stat sent to me on Twitter. I'm gonna shout it out. I don't remember the guy's name that sent the thing, but I'm gonna try to look while I'm saying this because I feel a little bit bad not giving any credit. But I got a stat sent to me. Man, my Twitter timeline is just too busy. I got a stat sent to me about Temple, which is just wild that Temple had gone since 1927 without playing a game. Okay, Mike Gibson on Twitter sent me this stat, a tremendous stat, where Temple went since 1927 to have 2 games in a row where they didn't punt. And now the last 2 games, they haven't punted. Earlier this year, they couldn't score a point. I mean, this was one of the worst offenses you could ever see. EJ Warner swaps in there, has a lot of success. 2 games in a row without a punt for Temple, and now they're getting 17 points. I definitely like Temple there in that one. So I'm going to at least be putting some of my money on the Temple Owls this week.
Does that kid work at a grocery store as well?
I don't know. It'd be a good story if he did. If not, there's got to be some grocery store that's wanting to hire this guy.
Got me interested in this game now, man. I got to check this kid out. All right, Kyle. Also, college hoop seasons is starting up. Things are starting to get impressive. I thought Michigan State looked good. They hung with Gonzaga, and they also beat Kentucky last night. What are some things you've noticed so far?
Michigan State should have beaten Gonzaga, really. I mean, they were winning most of that game. I think that was a fun game a lot. I really like those games that are played on the ship and you got the troops out there watching the game. Those are a lot of fun, especially the Veterans Day. Shout out to everybody who served the country too, or who does right now, because we couldn't be here without them. So we appreciate them certainly. Gonzaga winning that game right at the end. Drew Timme kind of took over right at the end of the game. The guy that's been there for like 5 years now or something. But
is that the guy who looks about 48 years old?
Yeah, and he's got the mustache and he likes
the full
kind of
beard,
taunt afterwards. I have to say, my wife is a huge basketball fan. She just really does not like that guy at all. She's like, oh my gosh, that Timme guy. Like he is pretty good at basketball. I know he's just so full of himself. But we've got Michigan State playing really well so far this year, beating Kentucky there in double overtime on Tuesday night. Then you had Kansas and Duke, really good game as well. Kansas comes out on top after there was a lot of lead changes in the second half in that game. Duke got ahead by 6 points, and then Kansas finished really strong. Cincinnati being upset by Northern Kentucky here tonight really shocks me. What was going on in the second half in that Cincinnati game? I'm going to have to look into the play-by-play of that one. I don't know what happened, but there's not been a lot of big games of teams playing against each other that are really high-quality teams, but we do have some of those coming up here later this week. So a couple games that I would really like to keep an eye on for later this week. Friday, the 18th, we got Baylor against Virginia. Virginia should be a fun game. Virginia always slows it down, plays that really good defense. I think Baylor's the team that has more overall talent. That game is being played at T-Mobile Arena in Vegas. That'll be a lot of fun. So I think Baylor should be favored by several points in that game. So fun game there. Some other ones this weekend that I would like to keep an eye on: UCLA and Illinois also in Vegas. So a couple good games there back to back. Indiana and Xavier, a team here in the Cincinnati area. Obviously, it's going to be interesting to see if Xavier can hang around there, because Indiana's the favorite in the Big Ten. I like to root for Xavier. I don't know. Nick, are you a Xavier or Cincinnati fan, or what do you like there?
I don't really have anybody I'm affiliated with. Definitely not Xavier.
Okay.
So
I was gonna say,
not
because
Xavier.
there's
But
not
I
too
lean
many
more towards Cincinnati than Xavier for sure.
there's not too many people that say they're a fan of both. Like you either
No, you either like them or you don't.
Yeah.
You either like one or the other.
Right. So Xavier has been a good basketball program, but then they play at home at Cintas Center against Indiana. That's going to be a fun game. Nick should probably be going to that game, but we'll see if he does or not. But
Did you hear who Mattress Mac put his money on? I heard.
who?
Who do you think?
I don't know.
Houston.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
In
he
college
did.
basketball?
He made the bet today. Yeah, in basketball.
Okay, I didn't know that yet. So that's good to know. Oh, that's awesome. So he's been talking to Betfred about Houston. That's a lot of fun. We're gonna have to talk about that one coming up. I gotta tell you, Bengals Genius, remember a couple of weeks ago when we talked a little bit of college hoops, and I said Houston was one of my teams I thought would make the Final Four. I think that I actually think Houston to win it is a decent bet. So I think Houston can make a pretty good run. They're a very veteran team. Sampson's a really good coach. So fantastic news there coming out that we're going to be following
negotiating, huh?
Negotiations from Mattress Mac with
Betfred going at it.
I'm hoping we get to talk about this a little bit with Jason Silva and some of the future episodes, but we got plenty of time to talk about that between now and the Final Four. I think Houston is going to be very good all season long. Kentucky Gonzaga this weekend too. I should definitely be mentioning that game. Kentucky Gonzaga should be a great game. I think Kentucky could knock them off there. It wouldn't surprise me. I think Gonzaga might not be quite as good as some people think. And then Houston playing Oregon, so good chance to see what Houston looks like here early on.
I know who's winning the title already.
Oh, good. Tell me.
North Carolina.
Because they came so close last year?
Yeah. They're young, they're loaded, they're hungry, and they're going to get it done this year. So last year it was in that second half was a pretty big collapse. So I think they're going to come back and close it. The way I figured the Bengals going to come back and close their Super Bowl, then they're going to follow suit and close their title run.
Okay. That's I could see that. I'm fine if the Tar Heels don't get it done, but the Bengals get it done. That'd be fine with me.
Yeah, that's fine with me. I'm just telling you who's going to win. That's all I'm doing.
All right, that's all.
Okay, Nick, it's time for us to help the people of Ohio. It's time for Ask the Cincy Corner. What you got, Nick?
All right, our first question comes from Scotty Adams. If Malik Cunningham doesn't play against North Carolina State, would you take North Carolina State +4? Malik Cunningham is a quarterback for Louisville.
Yeah.
In case you didn't know.
Yeah, I did know that, Nick.
just in case you didn't know, Professor Kyle. I got you.
Give him a smack, Kyle.
Oh, come on, Nick. I mean, that was disrespectful. No, yeah, I think Malik Cunningham is pretty important to the offense, but I really want to bet on NC State. I mean, NC State just lost to Boston College. Got to rather bet the under if Malik Cunningham doesn't play. So under, yeah, I think I'd lean under in that one. Louisville's a inconsistent team in general. Their backup's okay, but Cunningham's much better. NC State, their season's gone off the rails. Remember at the beginning of the year, people were saying that they could take out Clemson. Things turned south pretty quickly.
All right, our second question comes from Big Art. What's your thoughts on Tennessee versus Green Bay Thursday night football? Can Aaron Rodgers do it again? Can he win?
Yeah, I think he can. I think that the Tennessee defensive line's beat up, and the Packers are starting to finally figure out that they have two phenomenal stud running backs, and Christian Watson's making a step up, and I think the Packers are making a move to get towards the playoffs.
Yeah, I first of all, thanks for the question, Art. I know he's a new listener and a good guy, so Hopefully he'll be tuning in every single week now, but I think the Packers are probably a good play in this game. That would definitely be my pretty strong lean. Packers, I mean, they have to win this game. They can't afford to lose this game. Titans are sitting in a lot better position. I still don't think the Titans are that good. I don't know, Bengals Genius, if you agree with me. I mean, I know that they almost beat the Chiefs. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm just behind on the Titans and I'm just going to be against them consistently. I haven't been betting money against them consistently, but I still don't think they're that good. Like well, I guess we'll find out too, because the Bengals are going to be playing them soon.
Yeah,
right?
quick enough. Yeah, less than 2 weeks. I think Vrabel's a quality coach.
He is.
He
He's a
gets
good
them
coach.
fundamentally sound. I don't love Tannehill though. Tannehill's not it.
Agree with that. He gets a lot out of his team for sure, but I think the Packers -3 is a pretty good look there.
I agree. And our last question comes from Give them the deets. What's the Bengals' toughest opponent remaining?
Go ahead, Kyle. Who do you think?
In the current condition, I would say the Chiefs. The Chiefs is going to be a very tough game. They're going to be really out for revenge. Imagine them hyped up coming into that game. Chiefs will be favored in Cincinnati. They deserve to be favorites. They don't have Hill, but they haven't really missed a beat on offense. Chiefs defense is a little bit better than it had been. Still think the Bills are a really good team too, so it's got to be one of those. But what do you think, Bengals Genius?
It's going to be the Chiefs, but I think the Bengals might just run the table here on out.
Man, you are so optimistic.
I'm just telling you, man. I just think that everything's coming together at the right time for those guys, and I think they can hit another gear here. And each week, they'll be getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And I think they're ready to roll. And I think the Chiefs, if they better hope they're not favored coming into Cincinnati for that game.
They will. They'll be favored unless the Bengals play amazing between now and then.
Well, then let's
hope they do.
Bad news for the Chiefs there. And I'll tell you one little quick thing here, and I'm telling you, it's a factor, is Andy Reid's son's in prison. And there's no way that does not have a mental, emotional toll on him and his family. I mean, it is hard to focus for him in this scenario. And I think it's going to make things tougher for them the rest of the way. It's time for 3 picks that have nothing to do with Ohio sports. All right, Kyle, I'm getting hot here. Okay, my first one is the Jets over the Pats. I'm going to give up the 3 points. Like you pointed out, Bill Belichick's basically washed up at this point. I think, what'd you say? He's 2-8, last 10 with extra time. I agree with you, Kyle. The guy looks like he's on his last leg. The Jets at this point, they have more talent than the Patriots. All that little granny chaser has to do is not throw 3 interceptions this week, and they will beat the Patriots. They have to break through the Patriot wall. That's a necessity. Then Washington, Heineke is hot over them Texans. Ron Rivera is a stud coach, and the defense is getting healthier and healthier. And the Texans struggle against the run, so I think Washington's going to get through there. And I'm going to take Carolina plus the 13 points. Carolina's pretty tough against the run, and as we know, Lamar Jackson can't pass. So I'm taking Carolina and the 13 points. Kyle, what you liking this week?
I love how you just said that it was like me saying Belichick sucks.
Well, you know how it is. We're on a time constraint. You know what I mean? I just kind of summarized. You know?
Not exactly how it went.
Not exactly, but
I mean, the Bengals
agreed.
Genius is fun to do these shows with because sometimes he even puts words in your mouth a little bit. But I do not think Belichick sucks as a coach, to be honest. But
you didn't say he's the greatest.
Well, he's one of the best, that's for sure. All right, let's get to my picks before he says something else. All right. So my three picks here, he's got me flustered. Bears and Falcons. Bears and Falcons over 49.5. The Falcons defense is a hot mess. And the Bears quietly a good over team here of late. Justin Fields playing really well here of late. They had some pretty big mishaps, or else they would have won that game against the Lions. I know you know that one, Bengals genius. That was Fields is moving the ball well, and the Bears don't have the same defense they used to have. They traded away several of those guys. So I like that over. Bengals genius is going to like this one. I like La Tech and Charlotte over 65. This is one of those, like, it's definitely sicko mode game. Like, you know, you're definitely a sicko if you're.
These are my favorite though.
You're
Kyle,
into
that
this
you do.
one, but La Tech and Charlotte over 65. Charlotte has been giving up points to everybody all year, 41 points or more in 7 of their games this year, which is just insane. And La Tech's defense is barely even better than that. So I think you got two teams that could score a ton of points here. I'm going to go with over 65 in that one. And then the last one, I'm going to take Houston and East Carolina, an East Carolina team that we talked about last week, or you guys talked about last week. I'm going to take over 67.5 in Houston and East Carolina. Houston shootouts here back and forth lately. Tune is a good quarterback in Holgerson's system, but the Houston defense isn't what they were a couple of years ago. East Carolina, I think Holton Ahlers has a big game here in this one. So I think it's a lot of scoring there in that one. I'm going to take over 67.5.
All right, Kyle. Well, another job well done. Bengals are going to win this week. And that's it for the Cincy Corner. Thanks for stopping by.
Everybody, before you head out, make sure you give us a thumbs up. It's quick there right below. It helps us out. Drop a comment. If you have any questions or anything, let us know. Follow Cincy Corner on Twitter as well. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and check out everything we got going on. And we'll look forward to seeing you again next week.
Yes, sir.